Hi guys, and welcome to another Facehammer Old World show. In this show, I'm going to be talking all things Bretonnian, all things Arthurian legend, and croissant, and garlic, and baguette, and every other Frenchisms we want to bring in. Sorry for anyone who's actually French watching this, I do apologise, but blame Games Workshop. They put frogs on stick, for Christ's sake. So anyway, we're going to be talking about Bretonnians. So I'm going to deep dive, I'm going to go through all the rules. I'm going to be talking about it from a kind of competitive play point of view. Now, please don't, if I say I don't rate this unit, doesn't mean you don't have to take it. You can take it if you like the models. There's a whole other layer of hobby to this game that is, important, is having fun. Just caveat that. But I sort of talk about the more meta competitive play point of view because that's my background and that's kind of where I play and that's where I go and cut my teeth. Speaking of which, I'm going to go to the GW2 day at 1,500 points in April and the one day in May, so I'll do coverage on that. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be my first Old World event, so much excite. So yeah, in the show I'll talk through the muster list, all the magic items, the armor list entries, why you might take certain things, what's good, what's not good, and go from there. And hopefully I'll give you a good knowledge. And also I will caveat the whole show with Old World is new, opinions change, I can be wrong, I'm fine with that. If you disagree, great. Let's have a discussion. I don't mind. I'm completely open to that. I'm not one of these people that get offended if someone has a difference of opinion. That's completely valid. I just saying that basically this is my initial reaction based on my knowledge of Old Hammer and my experience of reading through all the rules for Old World and thinking about it, letting it marinate. And so anyway, hopefully it'll be some insight for you and you enjoy it. But okay, take everything with a pinch of salt. There's no substitute for trying things out yourself. It's journey over destination, other cliched motivational speeches we can give. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's get some hammer to your face and let's talk about Bretonnians. So we are going to talk firstly about the muster list. And the muster list is your army list. This is the Grand Army. There are two armies of infamy that come in the Arcane Journal. Again, for people who don't know, the Forces of Fantasy book is the book you need for Bretonnians, and the Army of Infamy are in the Bretonnian Arcane Journal. If you just get the Arcane Journal, you would not have the rules to play your army. If you want to experiment with army lists, that Old World builder that I use, you can use Quartermaster if you've got an iPhone. I don't use Apple stuff, so I don't have it. But there's other things you can use to build army lists. So fill your boots. I find them very useful. It's a lot quicker. But if you're like me and you like being a bit old school, pen and paper, books, cup of tea, sit there, memorize the stuff, and then sit when we're out walking or you're on the toilet, you come up with a new list idea or combo, quickly rush, get your book out, wash your hands first, then get your book out and then check. Anyway, so the Grand Army composition list, so basically you can have up to one Duke, up to one Baron or Prophetess per 1,000, Paladins, damsels, and Sergeant at Arms, as many as you want, and obviously that's up to 50. These percentages are kind of the same. They do change for the Armies of Infamy. We'll get to that later. Core, you must have one or more Knights of the Realm on foot and or mounted. You must have one unit of Men-at-Arms and or Bowmen. You can have up to one unit of Knights Errant per Knights of the Realm on foot or mounted. The Knights Errant are like your ones that are trying to prove themselves. They're a little bit cheaper. They've got a little few negative points, but they're cheaper. Special is Squires, Questing Knights, Pegasus Knights, and Mounted Yeomen. 0 to 2 units of Battle Pilgrims for 1,000 points. I really like those models and they're cool. Rare, this is your elite bread and butter, which is the Ground Knights. You can have 0 to 1 Field Trebuchet per 1,000 points. You got Mercs. We don't really see what they are at the moment. Allies up to 25%. So you can take from an Army of Infamy or some of these Grand Army composition lists. And Dwarfs and Wood Elves are suspicious of you. They do get a battle standard. It doesn't cost you any extra points. That's a bit of a hang up from the old edition, but you don't have to pay points for a BSB. It is quite interesting. It's an option. It used to be a requirement, and I think that's why it was free. So I don't know why now it's free and it's optional. So, but why, if it's free, why wouldn't you take one? I mean, you know, we're all those people, aren't we? Where if it's free, I'll have two. Otherwise, I wouldn't buy it. So, Lord of, and that's not what I'm talking about, a BSB. You always want a BSB. I think they're really important. Lords of Bretonnia. So the Duke has got an extra pip of weapon skill, an extra pip of strength, an extra wound, and an extra attack for an extra 75 points. He does actually get some other options, like he can have more magic items, he can have 100. Baron is 75, a Paladin is 50. This is a bit like your Aspiring Champion, Exalted Champion, and Chaos Lord, if you're used to the Chaos dynamic. Knightly Virtue, and it says a Baron or Paladin may replace their vow with questing or Grail. I'm pretty sure the Duke has the Grail vow. Yes, he does. I'm going to go through the army special rules and all the vows and all the magic items in a sec, so just bear with me. It will be time-stamped, but I just want to explain this option here. You can mount your Duke or Paladin or Baron. You can also take a shield. You can have a Lance if you're mounted. You've also got a great weapon, a Morning Star. Yeah, and then obviously the Paladin can be a BSB. You can't upgrade a Baron or a Duke to be a BSB. It's a little bit beneath them waving the flag. So let's talk about vows, virtues, and magic items, because it's kind of important before we get too in the weeds of the characters. I will just quickly talk about mount options, because that's, I think it's important as well. So you've got the following options. So a Duke, Baron, or Paladin. So they've got the same options, except for a Hippogriff, which is only a Duke or a Baron. You have a Royal Pegasus, a Barded Pegasus, Bretonnian Warhorse. A Prophetess or Damsel can be mounted on a warhorse, a Bretonnian warhorse, a Royal Pegasus, or a Unicorn. They've also got different points. A Sergeant at Arms can only be on a warhorse, and the warhorse basically doesn't have barding. So you see a Bretonnian warhorse is heavy cavalry, has iron shod hooves, which they both do. Barding. It also has some extra special rules, like Finest Warhorses counter charge, first charge, swift stride, whereas the Warhorse is fast cavalry, swift stride. So it really depends what unit you're going in. So the light cavalry, obviously there are different base size as well, which is a bit important, because if you're on a 25 by 50 and you want to join a normal unit of Bretonnian cavalry, then this is not going to be good for you, because you're going to have to stick on the end. I don't even know how that works with a lance. I guess you kind of like, you have a lance and then you have a model just sticking on the edge like that. It look really weird. Don't do that. So your Barded Pegasus is monstrous cavalry. Gives you +1 wound. Obviously it makes you fly. So if you fly, you can't join a unit that doesn't fly. So you can't put yourself on a Pegasus and join a unit of Grail Knights, for example. Then you have barding on that as well. So that increases the rider's save by 1. So yeah, pretty good if you want a Barded Pegasus. Then the Royal Pegasus is basically, it's on a different size base, which might affect if you wanted to put it in a unit of Pegasus Knights. It's still monstrous cavalry. It's the same unit type. It's got iron shod hooves. So again, that's the hand weapon, barding. So it's basically the same. This one has counter charge, first charge, fly, and swift stride. It's got armor bane, counter charge, first charge, fly, stomp, and swift stride. So you're getting, for an extra 30 points, it's double the cost. You're getting extra weapon skill, extra strength, extra toughness. It's got extra initiative. It's got 1 extra attack. You're getting stomp attacks, and you're getting first charge. You've got that fly, swift strike, armor bane on the Pegasus. So yeah, you're paying extra 30 odd points for those benefits. It's got extra weapon skill and its attacks as well. So Unicorn is kind of your Damsel and Prophetess mount. Again, it doesn't fly. It's monstrous cavalry again. You get +1 wound. It's got some attack profile. Again, you might want to take that because of the model or for whatever reason. But so what's important to note with these mounts is they are monstrous cavalry. This is still a cavalry unit type. And if you have heroes with infantry or cavalry, they can benefit from the lone character rules, which means they cannot be targeted unless they are the closest. If they're within 3 of a friendly unit of the same unit type. So knights are cavalry, mounted yeomen are cavalry. They might be light cavalry or heavy cavalry, and you're monstrous cavalry, but they're still cavalry. So as long as you are not the closest and you're within 3 inches, a unit of 5 or more models, you are not targetable. So you could quite easily have your wizard on a unicorn or your guy running around on his own Pegasus and avoid being shot at, even though you haven't got other units of monstrous infantry nearby. You don't have to take a Pegasus Knights to screen these characters. It's just an important thing to work out, and obviously you can only join Pegasus Knights if you have the fly keyword. That doesn't stop you joining normal knights with these characters or even mounted yeomen, unless you're skirmishing those, which is a different conversation. But basically, you can join those knight units with monstrous cavalry, and that's not a problem. You can't join non-monstrous cavalry into monstrous cavalry, but you can join monstrous cavalry mounted heroes into an infantry unit, for example, or a cavalry unit. The only issue you're going to have is actually being able to fit in the base footprint to become part of the unit. Because obviously cavalry are 30 by 60. If you look at the dimensions of the base sizes, they don't really fit. So how does that work? All 25 by 50. So they don't really fit there, apart from the Royal Pegasus would probably work there because it's 2 cavalry next to each other. But I don't really think you're going to be putting these characters in knights. They're going to be like supporting on the sides and using the knights for protection. But anyway, so have we got any more mounts? We've got the hippogriff. I'm going to come back to the hippogriff because that's kind of later on in the rules. In fact, no, let's talk about it now. I've just talked about the heroes, haven't I? So let's talk about the hippogriff. So the hippogriff is a monster. So gives you +1 toughness and +3 wounds. Is 120 points. It can have barding, which you're probably always going to give it barding. 15 points for an extra bit of save on your hero. It's worth doing, right? So it has close order. It's got countercharge, fly, large target, stomps, destroyed terror. Obviously, this, although it has fly, you can't join a unit of Pegasus Knights with this. He's going to be on his own. So Wicked Claws have got an armor pierce of -2, and the Maw has multiple wounds 2, armor bane 2. It can make 1 of its attacks with this weapon. So one of its 4 attacks is going to be a bite, if you want, and then the others are going to be claws. So you must take. There you go. So you can have 1 bite and 3 claw attacks, and so you only really have it as a mount. So that's your monstrous mount. Obviously, it's not quite a dragon, but it's going to give you some benefits. The fact you can have barding on it, that's cool. Model-wise, I know people have been talking about what models to use. I'm not really sure. I think maybe some of the Stormcast stuff might look good. I think it's a Taurolon, something like that. You might be able to do something like that. But yeah, I'm sure you'll find something if you want. If you've got the old Leon Kerr model who's on the Hippogriff, that's a really cool. I'm surprised they haven't released that, actually. I know it's a special character, but they could have just released it as a hero if they have the molds, because that would have been cool. So yeah, that's that. So let's talk about the special rules. Let's do that first, because that kind of impacts everything else. So we have the Blessing of the Lady. Now, people don't know, the blessing is when you pray and you don't roll off to see who goes first. You give up the turn, they get the choice, and you get a 6-up ward or you get a 5-up ward against strength 5 or higher. It does say that if 2 Brets face off, you can't pray for the blessing. And also which might be quite frequent at anything at the moment, because they're going to be one of the armies that people can actually play. So you might find there's lots of Brets and Tomb Kings at events to start with, so you might have a lot of mirrors. The other thing as well is that if you don't get a choice about to roll off for the turn, so you're playing a special scenario, then you don't get the choice to pray. It's only if you have that roll-off choice for the turn that you get it. You can lose the blessing as well. So if you flee or refuse a challenge, you lose your blessing, because she doesn't like benefiting cowards. Finest war horses. So this is your knights have got these super pedigree horses. And they basically say when they make a charge, fleet, or pursuit roll, you can re-roll any dice as a natural 1 before discarding any dice that are required to be discarded. So that's really strong, because if you roll a 1 in a group of 3 dice, you can re-roll that 1, and you're still probably protected by the other rolls. This is just going to have value. I even know it from when used to play against Daughters of Cain, and they'd run their 2d6 re-rolling 1s, and it just makes such a huge difference. So yeah, it's a very good rule. Lance formation, there's a special formation, which we've talked about on the other show, but I will recap it. If you're playing Brats, it's quite important to know about the Lance. What's important with the Lance is you don't always have to adopt the Lance. It's optional. It's just a formation. They still have close order. So you might not want to put like questing knights, for example, in the Lance, or, for other reasons. That's generally if you're running a unit in a single file, like 5 strong, you probably don't bother with the Lance formation, because you won't lose attacks, but I think it's just sometimes it just works out. The advantage of being in a Lance is getting rank bonus, but you still need the same amount of models you normally do to get a rank bonus. So yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure. I think there'll be some times where you don't want to be blunted, because that can be quite devastating. Peasantry. So basically, a unit with a special rule, if it's within 6 of a friendly model that has a knight, questing, or grail vow, so it's basically knights, and they're not fleeing, they can use that model's leadership. Also, their standards are not cut. Don't give any points away, which is important to know. I know I said on the list building show, don't give standards unnecessarily. Peasants don't care. Like peasants, you can just put banners in just for the sake of it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't give your opponent anything. So you can't join peasants into knights and knights into peasants. There are ways to get around that, but I think there's like a virtue that allows you to do it. But basically knightly virtue, I think it is. But anyway, generally peasants and the riffraff don't mix with nobility, and nobility don't mix with the riffraff. That's basically the way of doing that. So other special rules, they have vows. So vows are something that most models have. So the knight's vow goes on your normal knights, and the questing vow is questing knights, and the grail vow is the grail knights. Now, this does give you some restrictions. So the knight's vow, basically, you don't have to take a panic test when a peasantry unit is destroyed or is fled through by a peasant. So they don't care about peasants. They don't care if they die. They're quite happy with it there. There's plenty more where they came from. They cannot join the peasant unit, and they cannot join a unit with the peasantry rule, or they can't be joined. So basically, they don't mix. So this is just clarifying all of that. Basically, the benefit of this, you don't panic from peasants. The questing vow is a little bit different. So you have the stubborn special rule and can re-roll fear, panic, and terror. In addition, you don't have to take panic tests with peasant. That's the same as this vow, basically. One important thing is that you cannot be equipped with a lance. So questing vow, you do not have a lance. You're going to be running Morningstar or magic weapon, or you're going to be rolling a great weapon. And it does say that you cannot join a character that has the knight vow or the peasantry special rule. So you cannot be joined by a character that has a knight or peasantry special rule. So if your unit has the questing vow, you can't join this unit with a knight's vow character. You can obviously upgrade it. We saw it in the options. So if you want a character to lead your questing knights, you can give them the upgrade to be a questing knight, and then you have this restriction then in place. And you can't join peasants. That's obviously the same thing. Grail is like your next one up. So you are immune to psychology. Now, that does mean you cannot flee as a charge reaction. So not necessarily you want to be doing that, but sometimes you might just be out of position and it would have been better to flee, but you just can't. You have magical attacks and stubborn, and you always have the blessing of the lady, even if you don't pray at the start of the game. So you could, for example, just omit praying and not bother, and you could write into your list ways to get it. The only issue with that is that going first doesn't really matter. in Old World. You normally spend the first couple turns jockeying for position, and you might be able to vanguard a unit, then charge on turn 1 if they've outpositioned. So you might do it for those reasons. But yeah, I'm not sure. Also, it doesn't guarantee you going first. You just have to roll off. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. And it says here that a unit with this chivalrous vow can only be joined by a character that also has this vow, or by a handmaiden of the lady. A character with this vow cannot join a unit with the peasantry special rule. So, bit of complicated stuff. We'll talk about the law of the lady in a minute. Let's talk virtue. So virtues, you get an upgrade on a character that's in addition to their magic items. When you start putting on like a good mount, I'm gonna have a good virtue. I'm gonna upgrade my chivalrous vow. I'm gonna pick 100 points of items on my character. Your characters can get very expensive. One thing I would say is try and keep them cheap and cheerful, because I don't really think the benefit is worth the points. You know, like for example, like a 60-point magic item could be a sergeant at arms, could be another paladin. I mean, what are they? What's a paladin? Are they like 70 points, if that? 60 points. So you could have a paladin, yeah, in his pants, or you could have a magic sword. It's like, I might just want another hero, to be honest. So I think just be careful not to just load up your hero with everything. Now, saying that, there are some which are really good. So your virtue and knightly temper is 70 points, so more than the paladin. During a turn which you charge, you gain plus D3 attacks and hatred all enemies, which seems really good. You get to reroll to hit and plus D3 attacks on the charge. But there are other ways to get these rules, like magic banners. There's, I think there's a magic item in the Arcane Journal, which does the same thing, but doesn't cost this much points, and you know, so you can combine that. Then you've got the virtue of heroism. So unless using a magic weapon, that's quite key. You gain killing blow on monster slayer. That's really good, but you've got to use a mundane weapon. So if you're using a magical weapon, that doesn't do anything. It's very good though. I mean, monster slayer, yeah, and killing blow, very good rules to have, but 60 points is not cheap. Virtuous stoicism. The model and the unit can re-roll the 2d6 for making a break test. That's solid. That's like having a BSB in the unit. Obviously, if you've got a BSB, you can do that anyway. So this would be really good on a unit that's operating independently, or if you want to have some backup, you know, for whatever reason. And again, things like this, I think they're a little bit like a trap for new players. You read it and go, "Oh, that's really good," and then you actually, when you play games, how often does it actually come up? How much does it actually make a difference? And 55-point price tag. So again, it's would you rather have more bodies, more rank bonus, more heroes? You know, more wizards? Is this really where you want to spend your points? So just because you can max out all these choices, I wouldn't necessarily do that. Virtue of the penitent. Duke, Baron, or Paladin only get unbreakable, cannot join a friendly unit. And that's actually, if you want to make like a defensive flying hero, that's really good, because literally you only ever gonna die in combat or not. You can never leave that combat. There is a flip side to that if you get committed to a bad combat, you are not doing anything else. So you might want to design a hero that is literally there just to pin units in place, and you're flying, you charge in, you're unbreakable. You're not going anywhere. They've got to kill you. You've put all your points into defense. Fill your boots. Happy days. How effective it is or how defensive you can make a character, I'm not 100% sure. But there's an option there. That's quite a unique thing. Then you've got the virtue of the ideal. So it's Duke, Baron, or Paladin. +1 to weapon skill, initiative, attacks, and leadership. However, cannot be your general or join a friendly unit. If the last two things weren't there, that would be auto pick to get leadership 10 in your army. But unfortunately, it now becomes not that relevant. It's a nice stat boost for 45 points, but do you need it? I don't know. You got the virtue of the impetuous knight. You gain impetuous, which is a bit of a problem, unless your unit's going to have that anyway. And then you increase your maximum charge by 3, and then you can plus D3 to the result. So that's really good. So if you're not worried about having to charge on a 4+, and you just want to make sure that you're going to get there and you've got these bonuses, this is a good one to have. Obviously, there is a banner that makes your unit impetuous as well. So you kind of get around that. I don't know if it has any modifiers to at least you can stack. But if you want to charge, and you generally want to be charging, that helps you get there. So the virtue of audacity, me reroll failed rolls to hit against anyone with a higher weapon skill. And again, seems okay. Could be quite useful, but you could just get hatred, which does the same thing, but all the time. It does not, no caveat on weapon skill. It's 35 points. Your weapon skill is quite high. How often you're going to be swinging at something with higher weapon skill? Again, don't know. A lot of these, they seem very expensive for what they are. And you got the virtue of purity, which is 30 points. You always get the blessed in a lady. It has a 5-up ward, even if the army did not pray at the start of the game. So that's quite good because lower strength attacks with good AP, you're still going to get your 5-up. So you're probably going to take that. But again, it's 30 points. Virtue of duty. So Duke, Baron, or Paladin. Unless the general has been removed from play as a casualty, you get +1 combat result, and it cannot be your army general or join a friendly unit. Again, if you could join a unit, that would be great because you can combine that with War Banner. I used to do the same with Walk in Death in my Bloodline Power in my Graveguard. So Banner, War Banner, BSB, Walk in Death, 3 ranks, outnumber, jobs are good. But because you cannot join a friendly unit, that's kind of annoying. You might put it on a Pegasus hero, basically. Tag him around the corner with the unit, and you're like, yeah, jobs are good. Virtue of the Joust, re-roll failed to wound rolls when using a lance. Very good if you can have an effect on the wound roll like Monster Slayer that you get to re-roll, but you can only have 1 virtue, so you can't combine this with the other virtue. If there's a magic item that gives you Monster Slayer or Killing Blow, maybe that'll work. But reroll to wounds is powerful. It's good. Even if you're not trying to get a 6 and you just want to make sure you don't fail. If you reroll into hit, reroll into wound, that's going to make your output so much better. It's 20 points, pretty cheap. It's going to be a popular choice. Virtue of confidence. You must always issue and accept challenges. During a challenge, you may reroll failed rolls to hit. Again, not too bad. You've got to, can't refuse challenges anyway, but you've got to issue. So, not ideal. Virtue of noble disdain. You may reroll hit rolls made during the first round of combat when engaged with an enemy equipped with any missile weapon. So if you're in combat with missile troops, you probably don't need rerolls. The only issue with this, or maybe the only caveat I'd say, is that if they've got a ranged weapon but they're not necessarily a ranged unit in the traditional sense of like archers. I do not think breath weapons count because they're not a missile weapon. They are a shooting attack that you do in the shooting phase from a special rule. So it's not a missile weapon, so it wouldn't count in my opinion. But if you had like, I don't know, like a dwarf hero with a pistol or something, then that would work. I don't even know if they can, but there you go. I don't think it's worth the 10 points. I don't think it's going to come up enough. And if you're in combat with missile troops with knights, you're probably going to wreck them anyway. Virtue of discipline. The unit, this virtue, so the model with this virtue and its unit can march with an 8 of an enemy without taking a leadership test. So this is the enemy close rule, where you've got to take a leadership test to march if enemies are within 8, or enemy sighted rule, I think it is. Sure. I mean, how often is that going to come up? And you could just pass the test for reroll anyway, and it's 5 points. I don't know. Like, I'm not. Again, if you got 5 points spare, maybe, but you probably forget it at some point. I mean, it's hard enough to remember to take the test. Virtue of Empathy. This is the one that allows you to join a unit with a peasantry special rule. Maybe you want to join a unit of peasants on foot, give them a bit of poke. I don't know. That's kind of cool from a modeling point of view. You can do a cool like theme. You know, you could have your kind of your story of your knight who's one with the people, who gets off his horse, who joins the peasants. You can do a cool model opportunity with that. I think that's quite cool. If you've got a design idea that reads a character in a peasant unit, that's the way to do it, but only one can do it because it's a virtue and you can't duplicate. So yeah, maybe that's an option. You know, you could have a character in a peasant unit. Sounds good. So let's go through magic items. So magic items, they've got some good ones and some not so good ones. Again, magic weapons. Again, I'm not like sold on a lot of these. I think it's going to take some time to work out what's worth actually taking. I know back in the day there was lots of very expensive magic items and you never really saw a lot of them because they didn't really do enough to warrant the price tag. Again, a 70-point magic item is a lot. I do like this one a lot. I like the idea of it because it's basically a bastard sword, which is a hand and a half sword, which allows you to either go one-handed or two-handed. And the nice thing about this, you can change each round of combat, not at the start of a combat. So normally when you use a weapon, you're locked in. This is, because it's flexible enough, you can swip and swap between rounds. So you've got strength +1, -1 AP, strike first, which is quite nice for just limiting enemy attacks if they're going to be going before your knights or whatever. Once you've charged, you can swap down to this. So you might be a double-hander strike last on the charge because you get your D3 initiative bonus. And then once you get into the thick and fighting and they might be higher initiative than you, they're going to start swinging before your knights. Switch over to your single hand, get your strike first, kill a few guys out the front rank. That limits their attacks. It's cool. I like the imagery of it. I like the idea of having a guy on a horse with a double-handed sword or like, you know, like a long sword. So it's either +1 or +2 strength, either -1 or -2 AP. They're magical, obviously. You've got strike first or strike last and multiple wounds 2 on the double-hander. It's cool, but it is 70 points. So, but it is I like the imagery of it and the theme of it. But is it worth 70 points? Up to you. Sometimes the rule of cool wins, right? So you have a model, you like it, he's got a sword, you go, yeah, fine. Sword of Heroes has got Monster Slayer. So this is a 60-point one. This one you could combine with a reroll to wound, which should be quite good. It says a 5 is always a success regardless of their toughness. That doesn't mean that a 5+ is going to give you the killing blow effect. It's just that it's always a success. So 5s will wound, 6s will do more. There you go, 60 points. Again, Heartwood Lance. You're going to use this for your cavalry or monster. Most of your heroes will be this. Only on the turn you charge. And it's +3 strength, -3 AP. 50 points though, it's a bit pricey. Morning Star of Fracas. +1 strength, -1 AP, magical. And if a magic weapon carried by an enemy that suffers 1 or more undersave wounds is destroyed. Again, like, it's a bit situational. Like, you've got to A, be in combat with a guy with a magic weapon, B, wound them, and then it will do something. So, and like, is it worth 40 points? Don't know. Magic armor. So you've got the Gilded Cuirass. It gives you 5-up regen. This is just very strong because regen's not cancelled automatically by flaming. So you're not flammable. so you're okay to always get a 5 up. This is in addition to your ward save and your armor save. So this is extremely strong. This is like the Crown Over 11 Conquest for Chaos. Obviously, that's 40 points there and not an armor, so better in my opinion. But 60 points gives you a 5 up after save, which you can combine with your ward, your blessing. Yeah, this is just auto pick on a Lord if you want to keep him alive, pretty much. You might not take it on a Baron because you've got 75 points, but I think the Lord gives you 40 points left. It's pretty good. The other choice you've got is the Gromwell Great Helm. Again, this is very strong. Gives you extra pip of armor to a maximum of 2+, and you can re-roll natural ones when making armor save. This is great for your Griffin, to your Hippogriff. So basically, for being shot at and things like that, you could just go, I could re-roll ones. It's 2 up, re-rolling ones. It's very strong. Because you have heavy armor shield, barding on the Griffin. That gives you a 3+. This gives a 2 up armor save, re-rolling ones. So it's a very strong item. 40 points as well is nice because it can be used on a Paladin. It can be used on your BSB, for example. It could be used on your a Duke for superpower, or a Baron, where you could then combine that with 35 points of whatever else. So very good. You've got this talismans. You've got the Mantle of the Damsel Alina. You're immune to poison. Yeah, sure. Without Lisbon in the meta in tournaments, who cares? I don't think it's important. I don't think you need to worry about that. It's a lot of points for that. I don't think poison attacks are going to be that prolific. If there is suddenly something in the meta that's got loads of poison attacks, but they can still wound you. So I don't really know. Yeah, it's not really seeing that one. Serene's Locket. Infantry or cavalry only. You're immune to multiple wounds. X special rule. Just take a single wound. So you can give this to a Pegasus rider because they're still cavalry. They might be monstrous cavalry, but they're still cavalry. It's only if you're a monstrous creature or behemoth that you don't get that rule. So I would say that it's okay. Again, 25 points. Going to be hit by a multiple wound attack. It's quite good, I think, for saving you from cannonballs, for example. So pretty strong for that if you're playing a lot of Empire, Dwarfs, things like that. So obviously you can still protect yourself by being within range of a unit because you can't target you unless you're the closest. So, but yeah, it's worthwhile considering, depending on the role of what you want to do defense wise. I always tend to favor defensive or offense with characters because they tend to be quite hitty anyway. You don't really need to put too many points into offense. Magic Standard. So this is a 3d6 break test. Discard the highest for 60 points. This is probably the best banner that I've seen so far, because this is the old cold-blooded rule that Lisbon had. This is so strong because literally your odds of passing a test just go up through the roof with this. Yeah, I really like this. It's pretty much an auto pick for me. If you don't want to, I mean, you don't plan on losing combats, but it does happen. Yeah, I mean, it's very strong. You got the Conqueror's Tapestry. So an enemy standard captured by this unit is worth 100 points. It's 40 points. Gives you 100 points if you capture a banner. It's a little bit quirky. It could be good. It could come into a situation you're winning or losing a game. Are you going to take this over the Razor Standard or a War Banner or an Errantry Banner or, this Banner of Shayon? I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're playing with that and you're thinking, I'll get the extra 100 points and that'll pick with the game. I don't know. Errantry Banner. +1 modifier to strength, and they also gain impetuous. So if you've got the errantry banner on the unit and you give the virtue, it gives you impetuous anyway. You're like, well, I'm already impetuous because I'm going to be in that unit, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, and this is a very good banner to have. I do find it a bit weird. You could put this on like Grail Knights. I think like they're Grail Knights, they shouldn't really be getting an errantry banner. It should be Knights Errant only, but it's not restricted. So for your boots, the Banner of Shayon. Enemy units cannot stand and shoot. Quite strong. Obviously, standing and shooting could be quite devastating, and that means you just don't have to worry about it. So you can declare a charge and just have a go, even a long distance, and let them stand and shoot you because they can't. Yeah. What is important is when you declare charges and they do reactions, it's all simultaneous. So it's not like you can charge a unit with this and 2 other units in and they can't stand and shoot against the other 2. They can still shoot those because they don't have this banner. Now we've got the Enchanted Items. Now this item, I think, is the auto-include in every army. It's during the command subphrase, if they're not engaged in combat, you may attempt to use the Falcon Horn of Friedmund by taking the leadership test. If you pass your leadership test, enemy units cannot use the fly special rule. This is single-handedly one of the best pieces of movement control that they can do literally nothing about other than you not passing that leadership test, which they've got no control over. Yes, it's not guaranteed, but you could do it every turn that you're not in combat. Losing fly, especially in the Tomb King army, which allows you to march, is just huge. It's huge. This has cost me a game back in the day with my demon army. It's just so good. I would have this in every list, like hands down. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me it's a waste of 40 points. I don't think it is. I think anything that controls the movement or board state this much is worth it. This is just so good. So the Antlers of the Great Hunt gives you move through cover, gives the unit you join move through cover. Move through cover would be quite useful if you're facing a lot of wood elves. I do not think that's going to be a big problem because people can't buy them. I also don't think it's quite a chunk of points, and it's not like a 5-point item. It's like quite expensive. I don't know. I'm not sure. The Gauntlet of the Duel can be pretty clutch. It's only 5 points. It just means that they cannot have their challenges refused. So I don't know. Like the challenge mechanic's weird. Sometimes you just get the situation where the sequencing of the declare or who declares and who if they refuse, that might be beneficial to them. So if you have to declare and they even refuse with their character that they don't want you killing, that can be beneficial. But this just means you can't refuse it. So if they've only got one character eligible to accept, they have to accept. It's a little bit quirky. It's only 5 points, so sometimes you're just like, sure, I'll put 5-point item on just on the off chance. It's the sort of thing that you might put on a unit champion just for shits and giggles. We'll see. So Arcane is a single-use silver mirror. You can add an extra d6 for making a dispel roll and discard the lowest. The double one is rolled on any 2 of the dice. The bearer is outclassed in the act. If the dispel attempt is successful, the spell is dispelled and the casting wizard suffers a strength 4 hit with an AP of -2. This is okay. I think a dispel scroll might just be better. I mean, yeah, the little hit chip damage might be useful. You know, a lot of characters only got 2 wounds, like lower level wizards. Maybe it will kill. You know, you could chip a wound off. It might bring them into death range if they've miscast. It's one use only. I don't know. Like stopping the key spell at the right time. I think a lot of the play in Old World is going to be around your wizard not being in unbind range rather than getting the chance to roll for it. That's not always the case. You can't always control that. So again, it increases your chance to be outclassed in the arts, so maybe you don't want to risk that. Then you've got Sacrament of the Lady. This is a common one. It's still single use. Use it before casting. They get +2 to the casting roll. So I like this. I think it's good. You get +2 to cast. You need that spell off. Get +2. Brilliant. The prayer icon increases your dispel range by 3. Additionally, If you're doing a hex, you get +1. So this is just really good. An extra 3 inches on your unbind range. That's really strong. That just will mean that it's harder for them to avoid. +1, it's only against hexes, but then that can be good as well. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. They're all right. And we also have magic items in. Then we've got the magic items that you find in the Arcane Journal. So we've got the Crusader Lance, which is strength +2, armor pierce 2, armor bane 2, furious charge, which gives you D3 attacks, hatred, and magical. Can only be taken in the Hereditary Crusade army. And it's used in the charge, basically. So that's just a better version of some of the other magical lances. Pretty good. The fact it's got AP2 and armor bane 2, you know, you get into re-roll. It's sort of a lot rolled up into one thing. Obviously, you've got to be taking the Hereditary Crusade, which might just be the stronger Bretonnian list. When we come to look at that, I'll go through that. I'm going to go back through the unit profiles first, and we'll do the Hereditary Crusade and the Exiles at the end. Frontier Axe. This one is only in an Exile army. So this is +2 strength, -3 armor pierce, magical multiple wounds 2, needs 2 hands, 30 points. Quite like this one. I think it's basically you're getting an extra AP and multiple wounds 2. That's magical attacks for instead of having a great weapon. Again, 30 points is not too expensive. Only be used in Exiles. You do get that cool Bretonnian model with the axe, so you could use that model for this, and that's pretty cool. I've got the Sword of the Stouthearted, which is armor bane, strength +2, -1. Makes you immune to psychology. Again, needs 2 hands. So it doesn't. I'm not really too sure about this one. And you've got the Foe Breaker, which is +1 strength. And if anyone takes a wound, they must take a toughness test. If they fail it, they have -1 to its weapon skill and attacks until the end of the next combat phase. So it seems okay, but honestly, I don't know how often you're going to be hitting a model. They're going to fail a toughness test. It's going to be relevant until the next phase. Monsters like heroes or things that can hang around for long enough in combat with your hero are even going to kill you or pass that toughness test because they've probably got toughness 6. I don't know. I just think it's a lot of, you got to be in combat, you got to do a wound, so they've got to not save it, they've got to then take a toughness test, then you've got to be relevant in the next combat phase. I don't know. It's just a lot of if. Doesn't seem that strong. You've got magic armor, you've got anointed armor, so models of the Grail Vow, whose troop type is infantry or cavalry. Suit of heavy armor, as long as they have the blessing, they're immune to kill and blow and multiple wound special rules. If the wearer suffers an unsaved wound, either of these, they lose a single wound. If they lose the blessing of a lady, then the effect is lost. Again, that's similar to the immune to kill and blow. I mean, immune to multiple wounds, yeah, sure, but it's 45 points, so it's not bad. I mean, it does mean you're only going to take a single wound, and obviously there's that talisman for 24 points that does a similar thing. Doesn't make you immune to kill and blow, so maybe, yeah, you'll take that, I don't know. Iron Spike Shield can only be taken in Exiles. It's a shield, and whether they roll a 1 to hit or to wound, they take a strength 3 hit with an AP of -1, so it's quite nice. A nice little bit of chip damage back. Again, it's 20 points, so might be nice to stick it in. It's actually less points than that because you don't have to buy the shield as well. So I think a shield's like 2 points, so it's actually 18 points technically because you're going to buy a shield. So yeah, it is 20 points, obviously, but you're saving those 2 points as well, rather than just having an item that isn't a shield. If that makes sense. Models the Grail Vow. When the wearer of the Grail Pent loses a last wound on a D6 on a 2+, note the wound is not lost. Again, it's very expensive. I think the problem with this is just due to timing. So if you get attacked and you take like 4 wounds, but you've only got 2 wounds, yeah, you go, the third wound, 2+, I don't lose that wound, but then you've got another wound to allocate and they'll just kill you. So, and also you could roll a 1. Yeah, so I don't really rate that. Lucky Heirloom, this is ultra common. Only taken in exiles. Can reroll a single to hit, to wound, armor save, or ward save. I think that's really good. Rerolling a save on like a unit champion, for example, could be enough to save that champion. But again, it's 25 points. So do you want to have a chance to save your champion, or just an extra model in the unit? So it's like stuff like that. It's like, is it worth the points? Yeah, I don't know is the answer, but it's stuff like this you can play around with. But I think a lot of these, for the cost, they're so kind of situational that they're only going to come up every now and again, and maybe it doesn't matter. So the Banner of the Lady's Grace, 75 points. So you ignore all negative modifiers to your leadership characteristic. Now, one important note here is it doesn't help you with the combat result, because that modifies the dice roll that you take for a break test. However, there are things that modify your leadership, and this would mean you would take on your unmodified leadership 9 or whatever it is. So it's good. Is it 75 points good? It's a bit like the Doom totem in the Chaos book. I'm thinking a lot of points. It might be the Banner of the Gods, which is one you don't take leadership modifiers, does the same thing. It's a lot of points for what it is, but if it stops someone using a leadership tech on your, Ground Knights or, your big bus, maybe it's good. Yeah, I don't know. And when I say bus, that's like normally when you put lots of characters in a big unit of cavalry, and that's why they call it a knight bus. And I don't know. I just think 74 points is a lot. So you've got the Crusaders Tapestry. It's 40 points, and it's an errantry crusade army. You gain Frenzy, so +1 attack. Got to charge. Now, yeah, you got to charge, but if you've got Impetuous or but having Frenzy makes you immune to psychology, gives you an extra attack. That sort of doubles your output on a lot of units, because we have 1 attack a model, now they've got 2 attacks a model. That is quite a cool item to have, I think. And Frenzy, I don't think is as bad as it used to be. A lot of people in the old days were like, oh, there can't be Frenzy. But now, the good thing about Frenzy is if you run somebody down, or you catch them, or you break, flee, and you catch them, is you can reform if you pass the leadership test. So it's not as bad as it used to be. I quite like that one. You got the Banner of the Zealous Knight, which is 25 points. Can only be taken in Exile's army. They gain the Vanguard rule, so that's pretty good, because you could basically have a unit that moves before the game, and with Exiles you're not praying for the lady. So if you get the turn, you could have a charge on in the first turn and really catch your opponent out. So I quite like that one. Then you've got the Banner of Honourable Warfare. You must re-roll any failed rolls to hit when you engage an enemy equipped with missile weapons. So, yeah, it's okay, but again, it's the same as that magic item. You're fighting missile troops. Do you need re-rolls? I mean, your heavy cavalry hitting missile troops. Don't really think it's necessary to have it. But hey ho, you could have it on a Pegasus here, and his job is just to go hunt missile units. Then you've got some enchanted items. You've got the Seal of Paravon, and this is whenever a hit roll of a 3 is always a success, regardless of the target's weapon skill. So that means you're always hitting on 3s. Yeah, 35 points. It's the enchanted item, so it doesn't use up your weapon. Could be good. I don't know how useful that is. I think I'd rather just try and get a reroll or hatred or something like that. You've got the Crusaders Clarion. It can only be taken errantry crusade. It's on a warhorse. And when they charge, their mount and all mounts have +1 to their strength, which is not bad. I mean, it makes your horse's strength 4, basically. The only problem with that is that it doesn't modify armor. You've still got to hit them. So it's okay. I mean, it might make a difference in 1 or 2 wounds. It's not a bad... It's not a high cost. Yeah, it does help your charge be a bit more impactful. I know a lot of people will go, oh, the horses always do better than the riders, which is normally on Warhammer bingo. Yeah, so maybe it's worth having. You know, there are ways to really like power up a lance charge. If you want to have this, you want to have the frenzy banner, you know, you can make your charge very, very impactful, is anyway. But every bit that makes that even more impactful is good. The Worm Breath Vial can only be taken in a model in an exile army. It's a single use and it's a breath weapon. I do like it though. I think breath weapons are pretty cool. I like having a one-use breath that you fly down the side, breathe on a unit, do some damage before you go in. Maybe it's a little bit too techy. You can't stand and shoot with it. You know, you can't march and shoot with it. It's still a template. Bases are bigger. You know, all those things. Is it worth 20 points? 20 points is not a lot. I mean, if you've got a mounted flying hero, might worth having for one shot in the game. You got Arcane Items, Heart of the Wilds, +1 to their casting while within natural terrain. Natural terrain includes woods, difficult or dangerous terrain. It does not include constructions, walls, buildings. You should agree, which is natural, not so. Yeah, I don't like this one. You've got to be in terrain, so you've got to have terrain that you can stand in. And it's just like +1 to cast, and there's all these restrictions about standing in. Like if you've got like a hedge, you can't stand in a hedge. It's a linear obstacle. Like if it's impassable, you can't stand in it, so you don't get it. So you've got to be in the natural terrain. So really we're talking about woods, aren't we? Or maybe areas of like bouldery scrubland. But anything that's a ruin, a wall, a tower, they don't count. So what are you going to... How many bits of terrain are you really... I mean, maybe like a lake, a swamp, a Lady of the Lake. But that might be impassable. So it's like, do you really want to have a 40-point item that you have to have a discussion with your opponent to try and convince them it's natural that you can use it, and then you're going to be stood on it? Maybe you don't want to stand in that spot. So I don't like this. I think wizards as well. You want the wizard spell to be in range of the thing you want to cast it on. You want to be within unbind range of them. Being tied to a piece of terrain just for +1 and for 40 points, it's not worth it. You could just take power stones or whatever they're called, power scrolls, whatever they're called. Diadem of Power can only be taken model in an errantry army. When attempting to cast a vortex, magic missile, or assailant, they gain +1 to their casting roll. Oh, that's better, isn't it? And it's 35 points. So I'm not sure if I have that if I'm playing your errantry crusade army, which you probably will be. That is just better. I mean, yeah, it's only on those types of spells, but if that's what your wizard's doing, you're designing them to take, you know, fireball, whatever, then that's what you want to be doing. So it's fine. Flame Strike Wand, I like this a lot. Can only be taken in the Exiles army, but it can cast Fireball as a bound spell. That's just really strong. That's like, it's like a extra spell, picking what you want, and you're getting +3. Whereas if you're a level 1 wizard, you'd only get +1. So you could literally take a level 1 wizard, given that, and you've got the equivalent of a level 3 casting Fireball. I really like this one. I think it's just really solid. I would take this pretty much every time. If I was running Exiles, I'd have a character with this. I think it's really good. So that's all the magic items from the Arcane Journal. So we've gone all the way back to your Forces of Fantasy book, and we're going to talk about Handmaidens. Handmaidens are your spellcasters. So a Prophetess is level 3, a Damsel's level 1. You can upgrade them. Your choices are Battle Magic, Elementalism, or Illusion. I'm not going to go through the laws again. I've done a show on the magic laws. You can watch that. I personally think Illusion is quite strong for someone who's trying to stop or manipulate the enemy. I think you'd only put it on a level 3 or level 4. Battle Magic is going to be useful And I think Elementalism's got some really good spells, but there's a lot of crap in there as well. So it depends. If you're going to take Elementalism for your Oaken Shield and things like that, you probably want to have a way of picking your spells. Fortunately, you can do that with a common magic item, so it's all good. The important thing about damsels and prophetess, which where they're a little bit different to other wizards, is one, they give you an innate magic resistance 2, which is great. Just for existing. And obviously that confers that onto the unit they're in. So if you're in a unit of Knights of the Realm, -2 to target them with anything, just flat because she's there. Obviously, you want to be a little bit careful if you get outclassed or you miscast, because that could be quite devastating in a lance. I've seen that happen a lot. But yeah, great. She got the shield of the. So everyone in the unit gets magical attacks just for being in the unit with them. So your Knights of the Realm suddenly get magical attacks and magic resistance 2. And one important thing, she can't join questing knights. She can join Knights of the Realm, she can join Ground Knights, cannot join questing knights. Just as a side note, because of the vows. And the Shield of the Lady. So if you join a unit that has a unit strength for 10 or more that has a chivalrous vow, they may voluntarily retire to the rear of the unit at any time, moving through the ranks and taking up position away from combat. They're no longer within the fighting rank, cannot make attacks or have attacks on them. However, they continue to confer benefits of the unit in the form of leadership and special rules and cast spells if they were in the fighting rank. So this is just like, I can cast my buff, and you can even have her like on the edge of the lance, so like in a normal fighting position, and then once you've charged, just go, she's going to retire now, because it says any time. So you just any time, yeah, put it there. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if there's any jank with that, but obviously it's not like you can attack, then move, then attack with a model that takes her place and that kind of stuff. So but yeah, it says may voluntarily retire. So what's good about that is you don't lose her bonuses on the unit. So if you normally you would, if you're not in the fighting rank, so if you've got a buff like a spell, you'll lose that benefit, but obviously she doesn't care. She doesn't do that. So that's good. So let's talk about the Law of the Lady. So these work like signature spells, if you're not aware. So you roll on your law like elementalism or whatever, and then you can swap one of the spells down to this, but you give up the signature of that law. So they're basically like an extra signature spell you can take. These are all pretty good. The Enchantment Lady's Gift is on a 7 or a 10. It's a range of 12, which means you don't have to be in the unit you're casting it on. It remains in play. If it's a 7 or more, they gain regen 6. If it's on a 10, they gain regen 5, and they can do it into combat. Now, what's good about this is it also remains in play. If you've cast it at the higher level, then that's really strong, because you're getting a 5-up ward regen as well as a ward as well as an armor. That's going to make your knights really tanky. So that's a great spell. It's also a range of 12, so you can cast it on a unit, and then if you've got it on your unicorn riding damsel who's around the back of the unit, even if you've just done it on a 7, she can stay out of unbind range, because when the enemy wants to get rid of this spell, it's not the unit that is benefiting from the buff, it's the character that cast it. So they have to get within range of her, not the unit. So the unit can then fly forwards, and the character who's cast that buff, even if you've got like a level 4 sitting around the back, so you put that on, fire and forget, and then unit can go rah rah rah, and it'll stay on until she either dies or casts on something else or someone unbinds her. Burning Gaze is a magic missile on a 10, so it's quite hard to cast it. It's got a random range of 5d6. You draw a line from their base, any enemy model, which is quite an important distinction. It means if you do it from the middle of a lance, you're not going to be taking damage on your knights. It's a strength 4 hit with no armor save. Ward and regen as normal. Not sure about this. It's like it's on a 10, so it's hard to cast. It's a random range. What it would be good for is if you can get down the side of a unit of cavalry, for example, like a line of 5 knights, or like any sort of heavy cavalry down the side. That's going to do a lot of damage if you get that spell off. It's a bit of a one-shot wonder, but in this game, like killing a unit of 5 dragon princes or something, or doing enough damage that they're going to you know, you're going to wipe out 3 or 4 models is enough to warrant even building around that combo. Because again, it's about what you kill, what you don't lose. So a level 4 damsel on a fast mount, able to get, so it should be a prophetess or whatever she's called, but a level 4 on a fast horse with this might be all you need then to do the right damage. I don't think that's something I would play around, but it could be good. It's the no armor saves, which is the big thing. Lady's Wrath is an enchantment. It's a 9 in itself. It remains in play. The caster and mount and any unit they've joined +1 to their strength, and this is the main bit, improve the armor pierce by 1. So if you're in a lance, that is going to make you hit a hell of a lot harder. And what's quite cool is you could have a caster in a lance casting this, and you could have a caster that's around the back and not in the unit casting this. These can stack, so you can have both. You could have the regen save and this. That's pretty strong because you're guaranteed to get these spells because they're signatures. So you can go, I want this spell and I want this spell, so I don't need to buy a magic item to guarantee the spells. Yes, it's on a 9. Yes, it's on a 7 or a 10. But if you get those off with your casting bonuses or whatever you want to do, and again, this remains in place, so it can be got rid of. But because it's done in your command phase, you can cast this knowing you're going to charge. If you get the spell off, they can't really... The fact it remains in play is kind of irrelevant because you've had the benefit on the turn you've charged. But the armor pierce by 1 is very strong. If you want to play around that, and then there are other spells you can take which are good. But yeah, that's really... They're really quite good. They're not like the Chaos ones. Some of the Chaos ones are pretty bobbins. I think they're pretty good. You know, like especially it's almost designed for them to be in a lance to make that lance augmented, to make that lance hit harder, give them magic resistance. You know, I can imagine having a unit of Knights of the Realm with 1 in and a unit of Grail Knights with 1 in. It just really would be quite powerful. So we've got our next hero, our lowly Sergeant at Arms. Now, the Sergeant at Arms is only 45 points. He is basically your peasant leader. You can put him on a war horse. He can have magic items. He's got the Peasant's Duty, his peasantry, he's got Warband. The Peasant's Duty is basically saying that any unit that they've joined may give ground rather than fall back in good order. Now, you can do this combo with Men at Arms anyway, with a triptych and the shield wall special rule, but it does apply outside of the first round. But the panic test immunity, when a friendly unit of levies breaks and flees from combat within 6 of it. Additionally, so it doesn't say you get immunity when they get like wiped out or they flee through you, just if they break within 6. It does say any friendly unit within the command range can re-roll panic tests. So it sounds really good, but you've probably got a BSB. It might be good for your bowmen if you've got a back line that you want them to hang around because they get re-roll panics and they're less likely to run away. The BSB might have rarred off with his horses, so out of range now. So yeah, I mean, he's cheap enough, and sometimes it's like he's only weapons skill 4, strength 4, 2 attacks, 2 wounds. But sometimes you might be thinking, do I want to buy a magic item or do I want a Sergeant at Arms? He can't join Knights on Foot because he's a peasant and the Knights won't have it. But yeah. And that is the other thing I should mention about the other heroes. They can all be on foot. They are infantry. There is a new unit of Knights on foot. I wish Grail Knights, not Grail Knights, Questing Knights could have been on foot, and you could have an elite version, because I think they're a little bit costly for what they are. So Knights around on foot, we've seen they're getting a new kit. It's quite exciting for Bretonnian players. In terms of their costs, they're 11 points each, but you probably want to give them great weapons or some form of thing. They're quite good for infantry because they've got heavy armor and a shield, and obviously the blessings. They're gonna have like armor save, ward save, so they're gonna be quite a tanky unit. They're only toughness free though, so that does make them a little bit more susceptible. Initiative, they're just a human basically. weapon skill 4, I would have quite liked if these were actually an elite option, and they were, or you could at least have questing knights on foot, and they will be weapon skill 5 with great weapons. I think the fact that they are weapon skill 4, toughness 3, yes, they're good armor save, but they're going to take a lot of damage. They do have Furious Charge, which is nice. So it does make their charge quite impactful. So they could be quite good as a follow-up, because sometimes what you'll find is that if your lance charge gets held, and in Old World this is quite easy with things like, I can be stubborn, I just don't give ground, or shield wall, whatever, or Nakarian phalanx, or whatever rules. Oh, okay, I can weather that charge. Then suddenly all your lances drop off, and you're not doing any damage. And unlike in 8th edition, when you had like lots of ranks all the time, you don't really have all that in this one. You've only got like 1 or 2 rank bonus. And if you're in lance formation and you get flanked, then you're going to lose that, and you're going to become blunted. So basically, if you get pinned in, or you charge and you get held up, you need some units which can go in and just add that extra res, do that damage. They are your second wave, or a unit that can hold. And I think men-at-arms are better as an amble, because you can just get a lot of them and you can guarantee not running away. The Knights of the Realm on foot, I think, could be a good follow-up aggro unit. The only difference is they are slow because they're movement 4, but if they do charge with great weapons, they could be quite nasty. I'm not sold on how much we'll see of these. I think the models are damn cool, but will we see a lot of these? Maybe you'll see like 2 units of 10 with great weapons, and they're like flanking units, but like, yeah, we're going to be what, 13 points a model with no command. So that's 130 points. If you give them, you're going to give them a champ, so that's 136. Probably a standard. You might not give them a standard. You might give them a musician. You could have a first knight, some magic items on your first knight. So you're looking at, if you're going to start putting stuff on them, probably 150, 160 points. Is it worth it? I don't know. You could drop the shields, makes it a little bit cheaper, but I think you're always going to take the shields. If you're buying this unit, you don't want to have a 6-up, a 5-up armor save. You want a 4-up armor save against shooting rather than the 5-up. It's a big difference. You know, it's a big difference, that 1 pip either way. Now we've got squires, which are like infantry, but better infantry. So they've got bows, but these are like your slightly better peasants. They're still peasantry. They got skirmishes. They got a vanguard move. They can get fire flee. They've got scout. They're BS3. Champions BS4. You know, they're okay. Leadership 7's not too bad. I mean, generally you're going to be using other people's leadership if they're within range. But it's nice that they've got vanguard and their skirmishes. This gives you a way of covering. You know, you can give them scout, which is even better. You know, they're okay. They're okay. I don't know. You probably maybe take a unit or so, only need 5. You know, for 7 points, it's okay. They're not really doing much other than to get in the way. These are kind of your throwaway screen units, but I think there are better units for that, which I'll get onto in a minute. Men-at-arms, I think these are really good. I think these are solid. I mean, they're 4 points a model, which is dirt cheap. Yeah, they're weapon skill 2. They're only tough, but actually they're not really that bad. They've got light armor and shields. You're not getting the blessing because they're peasants. But one good thing about these is that you can give them 2 champions. You've got 2 ways to challenge out heroes. You can also have a triptych, which the triptych is giving them stubborn, and then they've got shield wall. So basically what that means is you can go, I'm not going to take a break test. I'm going to fall back in good order, even if I'm outnumbered. Then I'm going to use shield wall to just give ground. And that means that you're essentially guaranteed to hold a charge. You're guaranteed not to run away, which is amazing. I just think for the cost of them, that's dirt cheap. And even in combat, like, you know, you've got a halberd, which could also be a spear. Yes, they're weapon skill 2. You're not going to be doing a lot, but they're still going to add static combat res to a fight. Because they have the horde rule, right? And they've got close order. So if you've got a big unit of these and they go in with the knights or they tag, I mean, you've got to be a bit careful because people can kill these and get cheap combat res. But they're adding banner, 3 ranks, plus close order. They're adding 5 just for being there. Their banners don't give up points. They can guarantee hold a charge. Men at arms are really good. Really, really good. I just think for the cost, you're getting so much out of this block that, you know, and it doesn't give up a lot of points when it dies. Yeah, I like these. Peasant Bowmen. These are just your normal guys. Again, they're BS 3-4. Leadership 7 as well. So these guys can have like armor. I don't know if you'd bother. You know, and you could give them defensive stake and braziers. Now, the braziers give you flaming attacks, but it's 20 points a unit. When they're 5 points each, that's an extra, what, like 4 guys? If you did the defensive stake, that's 6 guys extra. Are you just better off just having more shots and just going, okay, yeah, defensive stakes are all right, but you can't move. So if you move, they go. Even reforming. All measurement is done from the unit. Anyone who charges it basically gets disordered, gets disrupted, and must take dangerous if they're a chariot or infantry. Don't be funny, but that's a lot of points for what you get with that. There can be skirmish as well for free. So the only difference about these guys, they can't scout, they can't vanguard to the other guys. I'm not sure I'm bothering with this. That's a lot of points to spend, especially the burning braziers. I mean, it only really affects anything that's flammable. I mean, yes, Tomb Kings are a meta thing because there's lots of them. But is it worth 20 points? Or do you just want the extra? I mean, they get like a 6-up regen. Or do you just want more shots? I probably just want more shots. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents, really. Then you've got the Battle Pilgrim Grail Reliquae. I really like these. These are heavy infantry, which is interesting. It means you only need 4 in a rank for a rank bonus. And what's nice about these, they've got light armor and shields. They do get the blessing on the Grail Relic. So that's quite interesting. And the Grail Reliquae is placed in the front rank. So it's basically a command. It takes up 6 model space. Casualties moves as normal. The Grail Relic cannot lose any wounds whilst the pilgrims remain. And then it's a standard musician. It's within 12 model of the Grail Vow. It's immune to psychology and unbreakable. So basically, the unit is unbreakable as long as they're within 12 of a Grail Vow model, which is kind of how you use this unit. It's really cool. You can include 1 Grail Relic for every character or unit with the Grail Vow it includes. Okay, yeah. So that's cool. I really like this. I think it's awesome. I think it looks cool as well. Like the model and the way it looks on the table is amazing. But having an unbreakable unit is just solid. And I like the fact it's moved out of the rare slot. I think it used to be rare and now it's like special. So yeah, it's really good. I mean, the fact you got. So the Grail Reliquae is basically like a very, very good unit of Anvil. It's not going to run away. It's guaranteed. Even if the Grail Relics, you don't have it, they're stubborn. They are 8 points a model. Really, all you're getting is a pip of leadership and all these extra rules. Is it worth it? 65 points for the relic, but that's obviously, it's technically 6 models. So, you know, it's not that much more expensive. It's basically like if you bought 6 models and gave them full command, that's probably what it would cost. I really like this. I think it looks good. I think it's a cool unit. If I was doing a Bret army, I'd probably have one just from a painting point of view. I like the imagery of it. There's a cool book actually I think it's the Anthony or Josh Reynolds books, and it's Knight Errant, Knights of the Realm, and I think in that there's like a really scoundrelly dude who's like, he's a criminal and he's a bit of a wrong 'un, and he ends up kind of like inventing this saint guy, and he ends up with this whole following of like fanatical Grail pilgrims, but he's basically just made it all up, which I think is really cool. And I think that's a really like nice theme. If you've ever read those books, you know what I'm talking about. I've probably got it slightly wrong because I can't remember. It was about 20 years ago when I read it. But anyway, yeah, you should check that out if you haven't. It's a really cool book. I have got the Lords of the Lance one. I've not started reading that yet. So we've got Knights Errant. So these are 19 points. They're heavy cavalry. They're weapon skill 3, which I think is the normal mounted Knights of the Realm are weapon skill 4. They're 5 points more expensive. I mean, you can compare the two here. So their command is 1 point more expensive. They can have a magic standard. They can have a magic standard. The first knight can have magic items. They cannot have magic items. They've got finest war horses. They've got first charge, impetuous, lance formation, swift stride, knight's vow. These guys have got counter charge. These guys do not have counter charge. What's the difference? They are just cheaper. You lose a point of weapon skill, but you're saving some points. Are you going to take Knights Errant? Only if you want the points for something else. Like, you know, if you imagine you've got 5 of them, that's 25 points you've saved. I mean, as opposed to Knights of the Realm, if you go for 10, that's 50 points. It's not a small amount of change, you know. Does the difference between weapon skill 3 and weapon skill 4 make a big difference? Maybe. Yeah, maybe it does. So the fact not having counter charge might be a problem. People used to run Knights Errant, like a small little lance of them, as kind of like a unit that was a bit fire and forget. They were like cheaper version that you didn't put any characters in. You kept it simple. And maybe that's how I would run a unit. Again, I like the idea of having one of each type, just if you were doing an army for painting reasons. I like the fact you've got a unit of guys that are trying to prove themselves. But yeah, I don't know. Like Knights Errant, Knights of the Realm, you're going to have them on cavalry. Now, again, this was 24 points, and we looked at the Knights on foot, and basically for 10 points, you're getting the benefit of being mounted. You're getting the lance formation, you're getting the counter charge, you're getting the finest warhorse rule, you're getting swift stride, you're getting an extra armor save. Yeah, so I don't know why you would put them on foot. Maybe I'm wrong, you can tell me. I think it's cool. I think it looks really cool, but I'm not sure about foot knights. Questing knights. Now, these are knights that people kind of... I've seen a lot of people say, why would you bother? Right? Now, for me, I think these make really good flanking units. I don't think you really want them to be very big. I think you probably want the minimum size, 5 to 6 models. Their weapon skill 5, which is a big deal, and their strength 6, which is also good because they've got great weapons. Now, yes, they get always strike last, but they strike at initiative 1. But the point is, they are not much more expensive than Knights of the Realm, and obviously they got the questing vow, so they get the benefits of that, which is your psychological benefits of having the questing vow that we went through earlier. They can also have a magic standard up to 100 points, so that opens up a lot of options that you can't take with Knights of the Realm. And the Paragon can take a knightly virtue, so again, there's another option to increase the power of the unit, and they can also have magic items. So I quite like questing knights because they're not really much more expensive than Knights of the Realm. You're thinking, what are they, like 1 extra point, 2 extra points, 2 points more? But the fact that they're always at strength 6 and weapon skill 5, in Warhammer the Old World, you're going to be grinding in combat a lot. You're not. I don't think you're going to be doing this charge. They break, you run them down. It's not going to happen as much. You might break them, but they might just fall back in good order, and you're like, okay. Then they counter. You've got to follow up, or they're going to charge you. And then when you've got a lance and you're bogged down in combat, you suddenly strength 3 on your Knights of the Realm. Yeah, how much damage are you really going to do? Even against toughness 4 infantry, you're winning on 5s. Like, you're just not going to do much damage. You know, so unless your character's in there churning. So basically, this unit is a unit that can go into combat and grind. And I think that's really important in this version, especially when death's everywhere. You know, and they've got low initiative anyway. So you're probably going to strike first if you charge. But even if you don't strike first, you can take it, right? I mean, and against shooting, you've still got the same armor save. Yes, you in combat, you don't have a shield. Fair. You've still got a 4-up armor save. You know, it's still good. I still like questing knights. I like them. I like the models. I like the idea of them. I think they're cool. The fact you can have a big banner and you can do a virtue, I think really opens up some stuff because you can't do that here. So yes, they're a special choice as well, but I think they're cool. You know, you can only really have one unit of Grail Knights because you run out of points. So these are like a cheaper option, which I think adds something to the army rather than just having more Knights of the Realm or Knights Errant. I think I'd rather have a unit of questing knights. So Grail Knights are 38 points. So they are extremely expensive. They are weapon skill 6 and they are strength 4 and they are toughness 4. They've got a great initiative. They've got multiple attacks. These are like probably the best cavalry in the game. As a maybe chosen Chaos Knights are better, but that's debatable. Because you've got the other rules here, like you've got the blessing, you've got the counter charge, you've got, you know, all these rules in here, which is really good. They've got the Living Saints rule, so they can all issue challenges and accept them. They can have a virtue, they can have magic banner up to 100 points. They're great. You only need 3 in a unit as well, so you don't necessarily need to run big units of these. I think 6 of them is a really solid unit. Obviously, it's a lot of points, so you need to be a little bit careful. And whether or not you run them without a character and you just run them as they are, and put your characters in the Knights of the Realm to make the Knights of the Realm a little bit more pokey. But you could put your characters in the Grail Knights and have a big unit of them. So in a 2,000 point game, you've got 500 points to spend on Grail Knights. If you just have them with full command, a unit of 10 is going to take you over 400 points. You could go with 10 with a magic banner and some stuff, but that's probably the biggest unit you'll take. You'd probably be better off splitting that into 2 5s with a character in each, and then that's 2 units of 6. If you can take 2, there might be 0 to 1. But yeah, Grail Knights are fantastic. Definitely want at least one. 100% want at least one. And because they got the Grail Vow, they got that immune to psychology. You know, they're just great. I think they're really good. Yeah, I love Grail Knights. So they are super solid. I don't think you'd run Brets without them. Unless obviously playing Exiles, you don't get to, but there you go. Pegasus Knights. So these are your monstrous cavalry. They fly. The interesting thing about these, they have lance formation, skirmishers, swift stride, knight's vow. Now, because they've got the lance formation, you don't have to deploy in skirmish. So you can join this unit with other characters if they're also monstrous. So if you could have a Pegasus Knight unit that acts like a lance, which would be really interesting. These great guys are great as well. You know, they've got Furious Charge, but that's only the knights in it, not the Barded Pegasus itself. They've got this dispersed formation. It just means that they're skirmish. They go a little bit further away from each other than normal because of the wings. I don't know what else to say about them, really. They're just solid. You know, they're weapon strength 4, tough 4. So they're a bit better. in terms of strength. The weapons can fall. They're 55 points each. They are special, and they fly. So maybe a Pegasus Knight unit is going to be quite staple. I do think they're very nice models as well. So yeah, I like Pegasus Knights. I think they're solid. Again, can't have magic items on the champ. Can't have virtues, but you can have a magic standard up to 50. So yeah, I really like these. The fact they're skirmish as well. They fly. They're really good. I think these do make quite an interesting unit to be harassing around the back lines. Maneuverability is big. You know, the fact they are skirmishers, it gives them a free 60-degree charge. Is that, you know, move them up the flank. It basically, you can charge wherever you want to go. They're really good for that. The interesting thing here, they don't have open or close order, so you can only deploy them in lance or skirmish. So that's interesting. But I mean, a lance of these guys would, I mean, obviously you can reform into a lance once you've used your skirmishy fly 360-degree charge thing. So I like Pegasus Knights. I think they've got a place. They just got that reach, haven't they? They got the able to fly. They got the maneuverability. They're good protection for your lances to stop them being blunted by being on the flanks. So yeah, they're a good unit. Again, they obviously as well. They've got barding on the Pegasus. They've got heavy armor. They've got a shield. So you know they've got a free up armor save as well, and they've got the blessing. So they're just as good, and they've got 2 wins each as well, which is solid. Yeah, I like Pegasus Knights a lot. And we come to Mounted Yeomen. Now, these I think are very good. They're only 13 points a model. You can give them like armor and shields and make them like 16 points. I'm not sure you really want to. They have short bows. What I like about these is just the movement. They're fast cavalry. They've got fire and flee, open order. They've got reserve move. They can be skirmishers. They've got swift stride. They're a really good like unit to be getting in the way, then running away, then rallying, coming back, that kind of thing. So I like what these bring. They don't cause panic in your knights as well, which is good. I quite like these. I like the fact that the models, I think they come out originally in 5th, and they were the Perry sculpts, but I think they're really nice. So like I think they have released these in the GW website. So I don't think I'll give them any command. Maybe a champion, maybe a musician, but I definitely wouldn't have a banner in there. But again, the banner doesn't give up any points, so maybe you do. The 5 points doesn't really matter, does it? Because they're peasants. So yeah, but I really like Mounted Yeomen. I think they're super good. Like I like this unit as well. I like aesthetically how it looks. If you've got some Mounted Yeomen to go with the knights and they can keep up with the knights, screen the flanks, I think they're good. Yeah, I like them a lot. Talked about the Hippogriff, and I think we just got the Trebuchet to cover. So it's a 100-point war machine. It's got a range of 12 to 72. It's strength 5 or strength 10, -1 or -4. Basically fires like a stone thrower. It's got the multiple wounds D3 +1. It's an immovable object, so it cannot be moved. I'm not sold on the stone throwers in general. It's only a 3-inch blast. It's 100 points. I don't know. It hasn't got any rules that help this shot do anything cool other than its strength 5-10. Yeah, it could do some damage, but because bases are bigger now, you're on 25 mil or 30 mil, you don't hit a lot of models. Like when you had 20 mil bases, you could get like 12 under the middle, and then like another, I can't remember now, I think it was like 4, it'd be another 16. So you could get up to like, you know, you're going to get 8 on top of that, like 20 guys that you're going to hit. Now you're going to be hitting like half that. It's like pretty sad. You get like, and you got to put it over the middle of one. So you think you get like 5 mil bases. And if they're on 30 mil bases, I don't even know what that is. You're not going to get many, you know. I just don't think it's worth 100 points for something that you could just misfire. And the thing about war machines, right, when they misfire and they blow up, you've given your opponent 100 points, and that's points you've got to get back. So I don't know. I mean, I think it looks cool, and I think you could have one and it's fine. You've got something to shoot, and that's cool. You can only have one per 1,000 points, so you can't have lots of them. If I'm just doing a balanced list and I want it to look nice, yeah, I've got one of these. I've got a Grail Relic. I've probably got 2 units of Yeoman mounted. I've got 1 unit of Bowman, 1 unit of Men at Arms, 1 unit of Quest, 1 unit of Errant, 1 unit of Grail, 1 unit of Peg Knights, and I've run out of points probably ages ago. But the point is that yes, it'll look nice, but do you want to spend 100 points on something that probably might get the points back, but probably not, and is but then it is good against monsters because it's got that D3+1, so maybe you do. I don't know. If it caused an automatic panic test or it had the AoE like the Skulls of the Foe, from the Tomb King one, I'd probably rate it higher. The fact you can't move it, although that doesn't really make any difference, to be honest, with War Machines. I don't know. It doesn't really have anything else going for it. It's okay. It's got the extra strength, fine, but it has a minimum range of 12. The BS of the crew is only 2 as well. So if you're doing indirect fire, then you need to roll a hit in a 2. It's a bit like the undead one. It's not very reliable if you can't see what you're shooting at. But it's cool. Like, the model's cool. So maybe we'll find War Machines are actually pretty good. But I'm not sure outside of bolt throwers and cannons, and unless you've got a special effect, then I don't see. I mean, I think a Hell Cannon is double the cost of this. So obviously that's got lots of different rules, but again, I don't really like the Hell Cannon. So, and we covered everything else from the fantasy book, and I have also dipped the toe into the fun that is the. Oh, I should talk about the Lance. I mean, I can go over it, but to be honest, it's fairly self-explanatory. You don't want to get flanked. You do have flanks. If you get flanked, that's bad. Charging regimental units with detachments is bad because they can countercharge and immediately blunt you. So that's something to bear in mind. So sometimes you look at them and go, yeah, they're cool, but sometimes you might want to not be in a Lance. So 6 Grail Knights in a Lance like that would be pretty cool, but I think actually just having them in a line sometimes is fine as well. But I'm not. Yeah, you can read it for yourself. It's fairly self-explanatory. One thing that people are a bit confused about, and I've seen asked, is that when you charge, these all count as being in base contact. That doesn't just work for the Bretonnian player. That's both ways. So if they want to hit you, they can. So that you imagine that these are all basically classed as being in base contact. So it's not like you only have the models that are in base here fighting and they fight with all this. So unless an FAQ says otherwise, that's how I would play it. Normally you just trace down and you use this footprint here as the enemy units that can fight. That's how I read it anyway. So we've got the Armies of Infamy. So you've got the exiles. So you can have up to 1 baron. You can't have a duke. Up to 1 damsel, just in total. Then you've got paladins, outcast wizards, and sergeant at arms. You've had 25% of your army must be spent on Knights of the Realm on foot or Knights of the Realm, Yeoman Guard, which is a new unit, or Peasant Bowman. 0 to 1 unit Knights Errant, Men at Arms Mounted Yeoman. So it's very much a more basic peasantry force. You can have Squires and Pegasus Knights. You can have up to 1 unit of Battle Pilgrims. And your rare are Questing Knights, Border Prince Brigands, Field Trebuchet, and a Bombard. And it says up to 25% may be spent on mercenaries, and that does include Free Company Militia and Empire Archers. Yeah, they gain the misbehaving mercenary rule, apparently. A single paladin can be a battle standard. You don't have to pay the points for that again. Any models in this army that have the option to purchase magic items and purchase items from the common or Kingdom of Bretonnia magic item lists. So there you go. They've got some special rules. So barons and paladins cannot have the Grail Vow. Any characters may replace their Knight's Vow with the Exile Vow for free. And the Exile's Vow is a chivalrous vow, which is described on Forces of Fantasy. They have Stubborn and Veteran. In addition, they don't have to make the panic test when a friendly unit of either levies or peasantry is destroyed within 6. So basically, they get these rules over the rules they normally have. So you're generally going to take the Exile Vow. They cannot pray for the blessing. However, should a unit with the blessing rule make an overrun or make contact with a fleeing enemy unit during a charge, that unit immediately gets the blessing. If you kill an enemy character in a challenge, they and the unit they're with will immediately gain the benefits of the blessing. So I quite like that you can get your blessing back. I think that's cool. Then we've got the Errantry Crusade. So this list is probably going to be the go-to for a lot of people, because you get a Duke, Baron or Prophetess, up to one or more Paladins. Damsel, Sergeant Arms, I think that's basically the same as the normal. Then you can have up to 33% on core. So you've got to have one unit of Knights Errant per 1,000 points. You have 0 to 1 units of Battle Pilgrims as a core choice, and they're a great core unit. Knights of the Realm on foot or squires and mounted Knights of the Realm. So you don't have men at arms in here. They move to the special slot with Peasant Bowmen, Battle Pilgrims also here, but you can have a unit here. Questing Knights and Pegasus Knights. So it's basically falling into the same. 33%, so you're getting a higher rare chunk. And that's where Grail Knights, Mounted Yeoman, Field Trebuchet live. And then it says you can have Empire Knights, Inner Circle Knights from the Empire list as mercs, which is quite nice because if you want to do like a kind of crusading army, you can have a unit of like Germanic looking knights with your, so you could have a very kind of historical looking crusade army, which I think is pretty cool. And you could do like the Battle Pilgrims, the Grail Relic could be the big cross, and you could do a real Kingdom of Heaven Fiend list. I think it'd be cool. So you use special rules. So the following characters and units gain Crusader Zeal special rule. In addition, any of the following can have the Knight's Vow replace it with the Crusader Vow for free. So Crusader Zeal, that's me. A unit with a special rule increases its maximum possible charge by 1, and when it makes a charge roll, may apply a +1 to the result. In addition, you gain Impetuous. So your whole army basically gets Impetuous, which is a bit annoying, but I think it's cool anyway that your whole army's like rah, rah, rah. If they've got these, obviously, even Mounted Yeoman. That's funny. Then you've got the Crusader Vow. Because they get Crusader Zeal special rules, so all these units get it. So even Mounted Yeoman, Battle Pilgrims. Okay. Yeah, funny. Okay, so the Crusader's Vow, you can only have the vow if you could have a Knight's Vow. So it basically has the Veteran, does not panic test when peasantry units destroyed, and they can't join by peasantry. So basically it just gives you Veteran, so you don't get a stubborn, you just get Veteran. It's got Earn Your Spurs. An enemy standard captured by Knights Errant is worth 100 victory points as a trophy. In addition, within 6 of a friendly model with a Grail Vow, they re-roll any hit rolls of 1. So that makes your Knights Errant hit harder, which kind of gets around their crappy weapon skill a little bit. So I think that's pretty cool because a model with the Grail Vow could just be a character in the unit. So, you could guarantee that. So I don't think you're not losing a lot by taking this, because this is optional as well. You don't have to take this. You get Impetuous, so then you could just take banners on that give you benefits but make you Impetuous or items. So you just like, well, I'm Impetuous anyway, so I might as well get the benefit. So we then have some special characters. So we have the Green Knight, who's 275 points. He is pretty cool. Like, he always has been. He's kind of annoying if you play against him. So he's got the Dolorous Blade, heavy armor shield, and he's got barding. You know, it's obviously he's got a free up armor save. He's got this aura of the Fae. He's a blessed knight, ethereal, guardian of the sacred sites, immune to psych, loner, move through cover, rallying cry, terror, unbreakable, unstable. Now, the only issue with this guy is that now lots of stuff has magical attacks. So ethereal does seem like it was amazing back in the day, but now it's like everyone in his dog's got magical attacks now. So it's not too much of a big deal. It says when he loses his last wound, he's removed from play, is not slain. His controlling player may attempt to awaken him during any of their start of turn sub phases, which is not on the battlefield, using the Guardian of the Sacred Site special rules as to opposite. However, each time he is slain, he is weakened. It is -1 to the dice roll when attempt to awaken him, and a -1 to his wounds. Note, an enemy player can only win victory points if he's not on the battlefield at the end of the game. So he's a 5-up ward, and he's got this Guardian of Sacred Sites. He's not placed on the battlefield during deployment. He slumbers during any of your start of the turn sub-phases in which the Green Knight is not on the battlefield. You may attempt to awaken him, so it's optional. Roll a dice on a 1 to 2, he's slumbering. 3+, he awakens. If he's not been awakened by the start of round 5, he awakens automatically. Place him completely within any natural terrain feature. So it says it's woods, difficult ground, blah, blah, blah. It's the same as what we had with that item. You need to agree. Again, I don't like this, that there isn't also or a table edge or something like that. Because if you don't have natural terrain, or, you know, you, for whatever reason, you can't because you can't fit, or, you know, I don't know. Like, 'cause you can't put him on another unit, right? So they just stood in the terrain. Like, how do you put him on the board? So rather than moving normally, he's completely within natural terrain, not engaged in combat. You may remove him from the battlefield or replace him. So he's completely within a different natural terrain feature anywhere on the battlefield. He cannot move again in the movement phase. He must abide by the 1-inch rule. Cannot be placed within 1 inch of an enemy unit. So if you can't fit, you can't fit. Then we have Sir Cecil Gaston, the Worm Slayer. So it looks like he's infantry. He is weapon skill 7, tough 4, 3 wounds, 4 attacks. He's 165. He counts as a Baron. You can basically include him in most armies. So he's got the Exile's Vow. It doesn't seem like he's restricted to the Army of Infamy. So you can put him in a normal army. So he basically, if he kills a model with monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry, monstrous creature, or behemoth, he gains terror. He's got the Dragonhide Cloak, which the armor pierce of any non-magical weapon is reduced by 2. In addition, he's immune to killing blow and multiple wounds. Both quite powerful. All that is quite powerful. So if he suffers an unsafe wound from attack with either of these special rules, he loses a single wound. Finally, as a 3-up ward against any wounds that are flaming. So it's a very good combination of rules for his cloak. He's also got this axe, which is strength +1, AP 1. It's got monster slayer and multiple wounds too. So he's actually pretty decent. He's got a decent armor save, heavy armor and shield, so 4-up. He will have the blessing. He's also got a decent ward against flaming. He reduces AP if you don't have magical. He's got a good deterrent from monsters, so he's actually really cool. I like him quite a lot, actually. I think if I was running a Foot Knight unit, I'd want him in it. Yeah, he's very cool. Okay, then we have the Lady Elise Ducard. She is a level 3 prophetess, and she can be included in any list that allows you to take prophetesses with the usual restrictions. She's on a unicorn. We've seen the model, it's pretty cool. She's got 5 wounds, toughness 4. Obviously, she's still cavalry, so you can still benefit from the lone character protection if you're near a lance or some infantry or some cavalry. So she basically has all the rules you get from having a unicorn and being a lady. They're all duplicated here. So she has these additional free rules here. So you have Arcane Backlash, Chalice of Brionne, and the Staff of the Elements. So the Arcane I was really pointing out that she knows Elementalism lore. You don't get a choice. So she can have +1 to any of her dispel rolls. In addition, any natural double, not including double 1, it unbinds the spell and the casting wizard loses a wound. So very good anti-magic defense. She's got this chalice, but she obviously basically means like she's like a level 4, because normally you'd be +4. She's +3 because she's level 3, +1 for this. She does give the unit magic resistance too, if she's she on herself. Don't really think she can join. I say she can join a unit, but she'll be stuck on the edge because of the base size. So you've got the Staff of the Elements. So 2 of her random spells can go to signatures for Elementalism or Lord of the Lady. So that's quite good because you can take 2 of the Lord of the Lady spells and they're really good. So you get to roll basically 3 dice on Elementalism and go, I'll have that one. And these 2 can be the lady spells. This one is really good as well because whilst within its command range, and the command range is 8 inches, then enemy characters that attempt to use a special rule or magic item that require them to take a leadership test take a -2 to their leadership. So there's a lot of armies, especially like Tomb Kings, that have a lot of abilities that rely on passing a leadership test on your unmodified or on your base leadership. So this kind of messes with that. So yeah, interesting. Don't know how often that will come up or how impactful that'll be. She's 225. I think a level 4 prophetess on a unicorn with nothing is 200. So she's a little bit more expensive, but that dispel ability is really good. Yeah, so I think you might see her played, to be honest. So then we're going to talk about the special units that are only for the infamy armies. So we've got the Outcast Wizard, which is basically just a battle wizard, but they get a massive choice of lore. So what's really good about this is you've just got access to lots of different spells you may not necessarily have access to in a normal Bretonnian army. So like Demology, some of those spells are absolutely baller. You can even make them a level 3 wizard. So they can't be a level 4, but you can have like a level 3 Outcast Wizard on Dark Magic or Demology, and you can try and put, the big power up spell on the unit of knights. You can't mount them, I don't think. Magic options, maybe mounted on a warhorse. So you can mount them as well. Obviously, they've got magic resistance. They don't get any benefit of being in a unit. They can't use that. Go to the back rank, still confer the bonus, but you can just put them in a unit, but they don't have, so yeah, it's fine. They've also got this untutored Arcanist rule. So when required to roll on the miscast table, a wizard must roll an extra d6 and discard the highest. So it's more likely to be bad if you miscast. But I quite like the Outcast Wizard, just because you get the access to all these different laws that you can't normally take. Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it's 105 points for a level 3 wizard. It's pretty cheap. So Yeoman Guard, these are still peasants. They're weapon skill 3, which is probably a big thing for the peasants. Strength 3, toughness 3, so a bit like Empire State Troops, really. Hand weapons like armor shields. They must take one of the following: halberds or polearms or thrusting spears. So a few different options of weapons. Obviously, the polearm is the same as the one that you get with the other dudes. They can still take a Grail Monk, and they can still take the Triptych. So really, they are just a better unit of peasants. They've got a better weapon skill. They've got different weapon options. So they're pretty cool. I like Yeoman Guard. They're almost like the guys that are on the horses but on foot. So they've got Horde, Shield Wall, Veteran, they've got Warband. So it's pretty good special rules. I mean, I think a lot of those are shared by the normal peasants. I think Warband and Veteran may be new. So yeah, pretty cool. I like the idea that you've got this more elite unit. I mean, they're not much more expensive. They're 1 point per model, 2 if you give them a polearm, basically. Yeah, but extra weapon skills pretty big. So we've got the Border Prince Brigands. These guys are like your special kind of unit that you can take. These are your special guys you can take in the Exile army. Now, they're just a human, you know, straight down the middle. You can take a Desperado. So these are like criminals, basically. You can give them, there's a lot of options. You give them shields or additional hand weapons. You can give them pistols or a blunderbuss or a crossbow. So you can actually have ranged weaponry here. You can have a standard, a musician, magic items of up to 50 points on the Desperado. And it says 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 may replace open with close order. So if you wanted to make a like a combat focused unit, you could. And if you want to, you can make one a skirmisher. And if a skirmisher can also ambush or be a scout. So it's a really flexible unit, and it does say that any model may take one. So you can mix and match the weapons. So they've got Motley Crew, they're a Horde, they've got Impetuous, they're levies, they've got Warband. So that's a really cool unit because you can literally do what you want with them. And you know, you've got the blunderbuss, which is 12-inch range, strength 3, -1, multiple shots, volley fire, and it says no negatives firing at long range or from using multiple shots or while making stand and shoot. So like a unit of blunderbuss skirmishers might be pretty good. So this is probably best to use the Empire Militia kit. I think there's blunderbuss models in that kit, if I remember correctly. Not sure you can get those still. Probably not at the moment, but they would be really cool. It says you can use whatever. I mean, there's lots of alternate models you could use for them. But yeah, I like this unit a lot because you basically can do crossbowmen, you can do pistol skirmishers, you can do a ranked up unit. If you're doing like if you want to do like a Dogs of War mercenary army, I think the like especially if you were trying to do something like Shadow of the Horn Rat theme, like having the Outcast Wizard, you could do that as the Amber Wizard, like this Ocklaw, whatever his name was, and then you could do like you could take the Inner Circle Knights, and that could be your main guys, and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's interesting. I think you could do a cool themed army using Exiles. So you've also got the Border Prince Bombard. Now the Bombard is basically a cannon. It's a little bit not as high strength as the Empire Cannon. It's strength 8, -3 AP, armor bane 2. It's got cannon fire. It's cumbersome with shoot multiple wounds D3+1 with a cannon fire misfire chart. So you can take cannons. Cannons are just infinitely better than stone throwers. So really, I really like the list that you lose the blessing, but you gain. You're building like a Bretonnian Empire mishmash army, which I think is really cool. Yeah, I just think it's awesome. So you could even use dwarf cannon models if you wanted to. It says about representing in the game. So yeah, Border Prince Bombards, that's pretty cool. And there's no special units for the Crusade, the Infantry Crusade. It's just the percentages and some of the magic items. So that's everything covered for Bretonnians. I think once you start writing lists, it's very tempting to load up characters and units with with virtues and magic standards and magic items. But then if you look at it, when you start spending like 150 points on gear per hero, you could just have another Lance of Knights. And sometimes I think it's better to be cheap and cheerful and just rely on the fact, yeah, he's got a Lance, he's got a Grail Vial, gives him magic attacks. Do I need anything else? Probably not. Yes, I've already got a 5-up ward, I've already got a good armor save. Why do I need any gear? You know, probably only thing you really need is the Falcon Horn and maybe a banner. I don't think you need to go crazy on magic items. I think I'd rather have more models and more units, that that do more just by quantity, and your positioning game will be better. I think I'll do some list techs. My mate Dean's collecting Brett's, so we'll go through what he, we'll obviously play some games and see what he does. I've got a Brett army myself. I've written a quick list of what I want it to look like, but it doesn't really fit in terms of like, I have to make compromises. And normally when I write lists, if you watch my How to Write List show, I kind of normally I kind of think aesthetically or thematically what I want and what tools I want, double up the things I think are important, and then start removing things to get down to the points limit, because you're going to have to start making some hard choices. So I think for my Brett list, if I just ping it over here, slightly over at the moment. So I've got basically a Duke on a Hippogriff. He's got no gear. This is like nothing. Prophetess level 4 on a Warhorse. Again, I haven't chosen the law or anything and all that. So a Paladin who's on a Royal Peg, Battle Standard. A Baron who's on a Royal Peg. You've got the Grail Vow, but basically this is all just in the pants. And I've got 8 Knights of the Realm, 20 Bowmen, 30 Men at Arms, 5 Quest, 5 Yeomen, 5 Yeomen, 6 Grail. And that puts me over 2,000 points. So basically that gives me a very good idea of what I can fit in my list. And so, you might start thinking, all right then, well, I'm only going to have 1 unit of Grail, so I'm going to drop one of those. That gives me points, 70 odd points for magic items. I want to have the Horn. Don't know where to put it. You can put it on the champion, I think, but you need to not be in combat. So I probably want it on like one of these characters that maybe is not going to be fighting very much. I don't think she can have it, because I don't think it's a thing. So it's enchanted, so she could have it. She's not going to be fighting, so she can have that. Falcon Horn, so she can have that, and then blah blah blah, whatever. So you can go through the list and get to what you want. And then eventually say, okay, I've got everything. I mean, you might decide that I don't want these two. I'll swap the Men at Arms for Errant, and you might go Errantry Crusade. Then you don't need to worry about peasants and stuff. But anyway, so that's kind of like where I was leaning with my initial stab at a list. But as I've said, it's the army itself. I think you'll want to be charging. You want to be using the lance. I think they've got some really good combinations. They've got access to Heroic Kill and Blow. They're fast. Their charges are pretty devastating. They disrupt. What you're going to have to be careful of is when you fight against people who can hold charges guaranteed by having stuff like Stubborn, Shield Wall, Unbreakable, Unstable stuff, because, you can break them, disrupt them, do loads of damage. I mean, if there's a unit of 50 Skeleton Warriors, are you going to kill 50? No. So you're going to stick, and then have you got enough stuff to protect the flanks to stop people disrupting your lance? And then you got to worry about things like armies that can blunt your lances. That can either get the drop on you from a charge. Obviously, you've got counter charge, but that's not necessarily always going to work if it's with infantry and things like that. So you've got to be a little bit careful. I think, you're really the shooting is okay. I don't know if it's enough to get rid of screens or stuff that's annoying, so you can then get into combat with your lances. The lances are pretty devastating. I think as well, sometimes it can be very tempting to really overpower a lance, and it's kind of unnecessary. You don't really, like Grail Knights, for example, are a good example. You really don't need to give them anything for them to be good. You can literally just run them as they are with command and just go, cool. You don't really need to give them the Razor Standard. You don't really need to give them I think there's one that gives you the stuff that gives you hatred. That's pretty good, makes you impetuous. Yeah, you might do, but honestly, I don't think they need the help that much. You don't need to put your characters in there either, because they're all champions technically. I think you can run them in the Knights of the Realm, because the Knights of the Realm probably need a little bit more help than they do. I think as well, it's important to realize that when you're not charging, sometimes you will not have the charge. Your guys are strength 3, so you generally do not a lot. So I'd say that what's quite good about stuff like questing knights, who people overlook quite a lot, they've got high weapon skill, they've got high strength every round of combat. They make a great support unit, and you don't have to deploy them in Lance either. And Peg Knights are really good because they've got the maneuverability. And I think it should be a case of deciding what you can put in the list that works. If you want a good anvil, I mean, the men-at-arms are great, but then if you've got a Grail Relic, then that's a guaranteed unbreakable unit pretty much, so you can just run with them. So it depends what you want. Obviously, you have to make some concessions. In terms of character loadout, I do like the Hippogriff. I think monstrous mounts are just very strong in this edition. One of the things Brets don't have access to is chariots, and I think chariots are really good in this edition for character protection. And also just having a useful thing, that is unit strength 5, is close order, can combine charge in. It's kind of what makes Chaos very strong. But I think Brets are great. Let me know if you've got any combos or ideas for using them. There's some magic items I don't think I would take. There's some that I definitely would take in every list. The Falcon Horn is just too good not to leave at home. If there's any others you think are essential, or some Duke builds that you think that's exactly how you would build your Duke, or what you would definitely put on, then let me know in the comments below. Always interested to see. Sorry it's been a while for the show to come out. I've been very busy, so I'm trying to catch up. I have got some Tomb King lists now written, so I'm going to do a show on those and talk you through all the options and upgrades I've taken, and go into detail on those. That will follow with the Brets, but I'll probably wait until I've had a couple of games against Dean's Force, because at least then I'll have a bit more of an idea of how Brets work and what stuff they have. I am going to the 1500 point tournament at Warhammer World in April, so I'll be doing full prep and coverage for that. I'm probably going to take my Warriors of Chaos. I don't think my Tomb Kings will be ready. I've written a list I'm quite happy with, so I'm going to get that ready, and then take that. I'm also going to the One Day with Carl, which is 1250, and that's in May, and that's on a Wednesday, I think. So I'm going to take probably High Elves to that if I can get them rebased and I can write a list I'm happy with. Other than that, it might be another Chaos list, but I'm not sure I can write a Chaos list I like. But there you go. Anyway, hope you're enjoying the old world. Hope you're enjoying the content. I'll try and be back soon with another video. Sorry it's taken a while to get this out, and hope you're all doing well. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks very much.